some ambient sounds in the background. We are live now. This is good. All right. So, let's see. Is there a way to pop out the chat? Pause chat. Whatever. Okay, whatever. We'll leave it here. All right, so here's what I've got in mind. Hey, Steve. Here's what I've got in mind right off the bat. Signaling model / market for lemons. So this is just a little bit of notes that I put on here. I've been thinking about this since my morning walk, but I haven't actually gotten very far into it. So I'm going to think about two breeds, buyers and sellers. So we could think about this as buyers are employers looking to hire employees. We could think of it as buyers of used cars and sellers of used cars. I'm going to fall back on the job market language. So let's maybe call this breed workers or singular worker. And sorry, actually the buyers would be employers. And then we're going to have employers' own variables. We'll have workers' own variables. I want to have the ability for workers to have a signal / a credential. So the Mike Spence paper, which I'll drop the link in the chat here. The Mike Spence paper, it's just sort of, there is some level of education that maybe you get, maybe you don't get. So to start, I'll think of that as a Boolean. Let's clear some of this stuff up. Sellers are going to be the workers, buyers are the employers, and they're going to be thinking about, the employers are going to be thinking about how much productivity they expect to get out of their workers. So I'm kind of imagining an employer identifies an employee. They look at some visible things. So initially just, do they have a credential, yes or no? And then maybe later I'll build in work history. If they look, they see, okay, this worker has the credential. Here's how much I expect them to produce as a result. Or they don't have the credential and I expect them to make so much as a result also. And I think I'm just going to make a lot of different employers with a lot of different forecasts and basically allow their profitability to indicate which forecasts make the most sense. Kind of thinking in the back of my head some sort of a genetic algorithm, but not going to worry about that just yet. So employers looking to hire, and they're looking to hire and make wage offers based on their expectation of the productivity of any given worker. We're going to have our setup, we're going to have our go. I've just got sort of a dummy go procedure right now. For hire, I'm thinking of it as creating a link, although I haven't fully thought this out, so this is me just throwing myself out there, totally unsure of what's actually going to happen. We're going to make the turtles. I'll get to that in a second. So let's start here. Workers own. We'll just create an ability variable. So you could think about this as sort of talent or conscientiousness or some other thing that is going to make them more productive. Let's see. Create numbers. If we got a slider for what did I just do? Where's the end I'm looking for? Got that. All right. So we're going to set up, clear everything out. We're going to make some turtles. We're going to reset the ticks. When we're making the turtles, we're going to create some number of buyers, we're going to create some number of sellers, and those buyers and sellers, as we create them, we're going to update their variables. We're going to ask for whatever stuff. Create buyers. Let's see. Let me go to the NetLogo dictionary. Create breeds. This should work. Oh, change the name. So buyers are going to be create employers, and we'll call that num employers. Sellers are going to be create workers, num workers. All right. Now let's throw up some sliders. Wage, let's see. We'll at least get that away. And let's go ahead and put in our setup and go as long as we're here. All right. Cool. Save our work so we don't lose it. All right. So far, we've defined these employers. We're creating the correct number. Let's just say set color to blue. And actually, what was that note I just had? No, I didn't have a note. Never mind. All right. Set color to blue. Set color to red. Let's set XY to random, X core, random, Y core. And let's see what we get. Cool. So we got a bunch of random buyers, a bunch of random sellers, workers and employers. I'm not totally sure about how I'm going to do the final. The last time I taught this class, I did a final project, and I ended up regretting that. So I'm not going to ask you to, say, build a full model, although I might make that an option for people who want to. Yeah, maybe I'll have sort of alternate ways to do the final, and one might involve creating your own model. But I'm going to make it so that you don't necessarily have to make a model to pass the exam. All right. Let's go ahead and make another slider. Percent high ability. We'll go 1% at a time, and we'll start with 50% of them have high ability. So we can just say, let's go with if random float 1 is greater than percent with high ability. That should be a less than. With the percent of high ability, then we can set ability to high. Let's make this an if-else. Otherwise, we set ability to low. Let's see if it gives me a problem. Yeah, so these should be let's see if it lets me do this. All right, forget that. I'm going to change this. I'm going to just think about this as high ability, as a Boolean. So set high ability to true. Otherwise, set high ability to false. So just thinking about it as a Boolean, and in the future that might become variable levels of ability, right? So instead of just high or low, it could be something like some number between 0 and 100. But I'm going to stick close to Spence's job market signaling for the time being. I'm kind of really mashing together the market for lemons with the job market signaling. But we'll get to that. All right, so we're setting their ability based on the probability. So let's say if we set this to everyone's high ability, then worker 76, we should have high ability as true. Let's try another setup with nobody has high ability. This worker 66 has high ability set to false. Good. All right. So we set it somewhere in the middle. I'll just leave it at 50% for now. All right. Another thought I had, I'm going to leave this note in here for the time being. So we're going to start with a simple assumption, which is high ability workers have an easier time, or potentially an easier time. We're going to try with pooling equilibria also. But higher ability workers should have an easier time getting the credential, but a possible variation would be to maybe allow some low ability workers to get a random variable, and if they're lucky and they get a high value for that variable, maybe that means that they are able to get the credential despite being low productivity. So they pass the tests, they do well in school, and then they get a job and they're not as productive as you would hope. That's something that should show up in something like a semi-separating equilibrium. But I'm going to leave that alone for now. I'm just going to sort of dump that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to dump that in here under extending the model. I'm not going to format. I'm going to be lazy here, but just so it's somewhere. Somewhere and not in the way of my code. By the way, this info tab is something that I'm kind of bad at using. This is a good place to document things, but it's also easy to forget and ignore. And I'm going to forget and ignore it right now. All right, so we've made the turtles. Now we need to figure out the hiring stuff. And then we need to figure out how this is actually going to operate. Let's see how to do that. I think I want to use links, right? So create link to some seller. We want the employers to look at some workers, determine whether or not they should hire them, and then we want the workers to accept the highest wage offer that they receive. So let's go ahead and ask employers to search for workers. We'll make a procedure for that. So this should be code that is only ever called by an employer type turtle. So maybe they look at some random number. So let's let the candidate pool be n of workers. Let's just make it 10 for the time being. They look at 10 workers. Actually, let's try this. Let's just think about one candidate. So one of the workers. Now they've got to come up with a forecast for this worker. they've got to try and estimate based on this worker's credential whether or not they want to pay them. So let's maybe make the employer's own I'm going to create a variable called credential premium. So basically, what premium do they pay for employees who have some credential? And we're going to invent the credential in a little bit. And let's go ahead and make, when we create the employers, we will set the credential premium to some random number less than 100. Kind of guessing at that right now. We'll figure out if that makes sense once we start to put in the productivity. So we're going to ask the employers to search for workers. We will ask employees to take best offer. So to take best offer, we're going to have the employee evaluate links in. That link related, let's see, so create link from, read to, create link from, create link to. Let's look at this. So let's assume that in this search for workers, we'll say if they hire, right? So if candidate, let's say expected productivity of candidate is high enough, hire them. So we would just say hire candidate. So we'll figure out what that code is, what we need there, and again, we'll figure out how many workers they look at any given time. But for the time being, some employer looks at one worker, and then we do some evaluation, and for the time being, we're just going to have them hire every candidate they look at. So they will hire a candidate. They will create a link to that candidate. Right. So little side note here. Here we're defining this procedure to hire. So we're saying the procedure is called hire, and it takes an input which we're calling seller, and seller is just some sort of a placeholder. So the placeholder in this case is going to be replaced by candidate when we actually use the procedure. So we say hire the candidate, and anywhere in here that says seller, we're getting this instead. So we create a link to that candidate who we defined as one of the workers randomly. We're going to create some sort of a wage variable. So let's go ahead and add another set of variables. So we'll say links own, wage, and production. So we'll let this hold on to information about the offer an employer makes and also about the outcome. How good does the employee do? And then looking at links in, create link in, create link to, create link to when we do some commands. That's what we're doing here. We'll let production just be populated with a 0 by default. Let's see if we get any errors. Wage B1. No, that's not what I want. I must have copy pasted that randomly. employees, not employees, workers. This becomes a set instead of a let. All right, definitely accidentally copy pasted something. All right, I've got my breeds. Essentially, I'm going to think of the links as a contract. The employers, let's go ahead and just separate this a little bit. Employers, they're going to be willing to offer some premium. Let's see, we got to set that. Set credential premium. So initially we're saying it is a positive premium. That's probably fine for now. We could hypothetically allow employers to offer a lower wage to credentialed employees. Let's not worry about that yet. Let's make sure I still have questions. All right, workers. Workers may or may not have a high ability. Yeah, I think that should be fine. I'm going to put in a work history. I'm not going to use it yet, but I'll put it in there. So when the worker takes the best offer, we also want to update the work history. Now, let's not add it. I'm not going to add that yet. It's tempting to add it, but it's more complexity than I need right off the bat. All right, so let's, what is it? Choose max one of something along those lines. Agent set. It's going to be max one of. So let's say we essentially want everyone but the best offer to die. We want those links to disappear. So let's say max one of. So accept offer from max one of links in and wage. Let me make sure I'm thinking about links in right. Not link in, links in links. Here we go. My in links from other nodes to the caller as well as undirected links. All right. Okay. It's going to be my in links. My in links. And then we're going to say something like ask my in links with not accepted to die. So I'm going to create a variable for the links. So initially we create that link, we will set accepted to false. So the employer offers to hire a worker. Let's just call that worker, just to avoid confusion. I could make that banana and it would still work, but calling it worker should actually, is this going to give us an error? It's going to give us an error. All right. Let's see. We'll keep it at seller. All right. So if I am an employer and I look to hire you, I create a link to you, I set some wage. I'll figure out that wage later. And then I set accepted to false. And then if you have more than one offer, we'll say ask workers to take best offers. So we want workers with in links greater than 0. Let's search for in links. Neighbor, neighbor, and link from. Maybe it's my in links. Let's look for this. My in links. We should be able to count that. So we don't need to ask workers without a job to try and evaluate that. So this should take care of that. Let's see what we get. Accepted. We're setting to false. So let's go ahead and set links on also to accepted. There we go. All right, let's see what happens. Nothing yet. All right, we're clear. We make some turtles. I feel comfortable with how we're making the turtles. That's fine for now. Let's go ahead and say set base wage to some random figure. And again, I want to make sure this makes sense also. But I'm kind of thinking maybe we're going to have some employers that are just going to lose money, some that are going to do really well, and we're going to, at some other point, figure out a way to make the environment reflect those differences in fitness, right? Create some sort of an evolutionary pressure. We're not going to worry about it just yet. All right, hey, cool, there are people. This is good. So then the wage will be base wage plus credential premium if the seller has the credential. So if credential, let's see. How are we thinking about this? The workers own, they got high ability, and they need some ability to have a credential. So if, let's make that a Boolean. We don't need the question mark to make it a Boolean, but it just makes it a little bit easier to notice when you've got a Boolean variable. So if credential of seller, then set wage to wage plus credential premium. And we will will set wage to the wage plus the base wage. But that order makes a little bit more sense. Let's see, actually we can even just set wage to base wage, and then if we've got a credentialed seller, in this case someone selling their labor, their wage goes to that base wage plus the credential premium. All right. Set base wage to random 0. So we want a base wage also. So this is essentially implicitly giving us the forecast. And we're basically making these employers randomly give some forecast of how productive they expect a worker to be baseline and how much more they expect out of an employee with the credential. And like I said, it's totally random, but we can make it so that maybe at some point, we could even put this in the go loop right off the bat, the genetic algorithm, where maybe we ask min n of employers based on their profit level to die, and we could ask max n of employers based on their profit level to, say, sprout a new employer taking on their same variables. And actually, even within that, we would probably want to say set credential premium and the base wage. Let's go and actually, let's write that out a little bit clearer. So let's make it a separate procedure to evolve. And maybe this is something we call every 100 rounds or something like that. So to evolve, kill least profitable employers and sprout slash mutate most profitable. So we could ask the min n of employers based on their profit to die, and we could ask the min n of, let's call it min 1 of, and the max, not min, the max 1 of employers based on their profit. They will sprout, and let me see if I'm using sprout correctly. Sprout creates a new turtle on the current patch. Random color. Sprout breeds. The number is fractional. It'll be rounded down. Hatch. Do I want to hatch? Some number of new turtles. Inherits all of its variables, including location, from its parent. That's what I want. I want hatch. So the each iteration of the evolve procedure, I will kill off the least profitable employer, and I will duplicate the most profitable with some modifications. So we will set these two variables. Let's get my alignment right. The credential premium will be the credential premium plus, say, random normal around 0 with a standard deviation of 10. That's fine. And then base wage we will set to the base wage plus random normal, 0 and 10. So basically what this procedure does, and we will also make an employer's own profit. We want to keep track of that. And then for the workers, let's hang on to their utility also. Not sure if we'll get to that, but we'll put in something. So when we evolve, we are looking for the employer with the lowest profit, and we're cutting them out of the market, and we're looking for the one with the highest profit, and we are duplicating them in one of number block. All right, this should be in brackets. Let's go base wage of, this is either going to be self or myself. Oh. All right, that is fine. So what we're doing here in higher, let me come back to evolve. We'll come back to that because the errors are going to throw me there anyways. So in evolve, when we ask some employer, whichever employer has the highest profit, and we could add a little bit of variation in there later. We don't necessarily need the most profitable. We might say the 5 most profitable. We'll stick with 1 for the time being. So we have some employer with a high level of profit, and they have some values for credential premium and base wage that was initially randomly generated, right? So some initial random number, and whoever's random numbers happen to be good are going to survive. They're going to be copied by this hatch. So when we hatch the hatched turtle, let's go ahead and show you that. Or maybe I can't show you until I fix the bugs. When we ask for a hatch, this employer is going to create a duplicate of themselves with all of the same variables, the same header, the same location, the same color, all of those things. And then we're going to ask that new copy of them to take that baseline and add a little bit of randomness. Right? So that's what's going on with evolve. All right, so we want the wage to be plus the credential premium of self. So what's going on here, the errors I was just getting, and let me, just add these spaces. Style is superficial, but it does help to make the code more readable. Consistency is helpful. Let's be consistent there too. So we're setting the wage to the base wage of self, where self is the employer calling this procedure. Procedure. And likewise for here. So if the seller has the credential, then we set their wage to the wage we just set here, plus the credential premium of self, where self is one of these employers searching for candidates who just said, I'm going to hire a candidate. All right. So we've got a really rudimentary labor market, but we don't have any production yet. So let's create a produce procedure. Let's tidy stuff up a little bit. Is there a way to fold all of these things at once? The IDE of NetLogo is not the best. All right, so we do a setup, we clear all, we make the turtles. I'm fine with that. When we make the turtles. So let me update this note to myself. And we still have to make it so the turtles can get that credential. The workers, they've got the credential, we've got that. Work history as possible extension, but we're not going to worry about it just yet. We've already got the high and low productivity types, and we'll leave that coarse grain for the time being. And then we got these links, which is representing an offer from an employer to a worker of some wage. During the production, we're going to update the production. So let's see, we started on the production yet? I'm happy enough. Let's see, we set the colors, we set the coordinates randomly. Coordinates doesn't really matter. Set credential premium and base wage to some random things. We've got some random allocation of ability. All right, I'm happy enough with that procedure as it is. Search for workers. Well, maybe they just hire the candidate. So this may be, I think this will get more elaborate later. So maybe in the future we grab a pool of candidates rather than just some individual. We'll let the genetic aspect of this deal with this. So we'll just say you hire someone and you kind of hope for the best. Search for workers, right? So really just, actually we could even do this. We could just say hire one of workers. That'll be fine. If it breaks, we'll find out how it's broken later. All right, so we still have to figure out which offer is best. So let's go with ask my inlinks. So do you mean like a remote job? And do you mean a college student job or a job for after you graduate? Yeah, so remote work is an interesting thing. I know Stack Exchange, that the folks there talk about that. They're a mostly remote workplace. In tech, there are a lot more opportunities to work remotely. Banks are kind of old-fashioned, so banks, they're going to typically want you to buy a suit and show up to a specific place. But in tech, remote work is certainly possible. So if you search for, like, if you just type in the word remote when you search a job board, that'll give you some idea. Yeah, so as a temporary job, I don't know. I don't know how much temp work there is for. One thing that there is as an option for basically anyone wanting to work online is something like Mechanical Turk. Basically, you're kind of doing really low-level freelancing stuff. It's usually a way to hire, say, someone in somewhere in a developing country where the wages are really low, to hire them to help you to label a data set, something like Mechanical Turk. This is probably not a great place for you to find work, but it is something that you can do that gets some money. Probably just not a lot of money. And then something like Upwork or Fiverr or one of these freelance boards, you can search for remote on there too. I'm not sure how much there actually is out there. All right, so we're taking the best offer. We're going to ask, I think basically what we want to do is we want to ask the max one of from MyLinks based on the wage to set accepted to true. And then delete all of the other ones. Oh, let's see. Nothing name produce. Just put in a dummy thing. I'm going to rearrange these procedures in a little bit. But let's see what happens. So we set up, we go, and we get an error. Link accessing a turtle variable without specifying which turtle. So maybe this was myself. Let's try that. Self and myself, I definitely get confused. Set up, we go. Oh, that was good, that was close. We've got credentials set to 0. So we want to set in here, set credential to false. That should take care of that. Let's try it again. Cool. So we just had a bunch of people hiring. So this worker, they're getting no utility. We haven't figured that out yet. We haven't given them a credential yet. They are a high ability worker. So let's see, 57. Is that who I'm looking at? They are working for employer 5, who's offering a base wage of 65 plus a credential premium of 47. We also haven't worked out their premium, their profit stuff yet, so that's going to be part of the produce procedure. And then let's see if we can't select the link between them. The link from 5 to 57, turtle 5 to worker 57. Label color, the wage is 65. It's just the base wage. We haven't updated the production, but we have said this job is accepted. All right, cool. So we've made a way to hire turtles, but we haven't made a way for them to do anything. So employers search for workers. Let's tidy up a little bit. They search for workers, and then they hire a worker. Let's see. What did I just mess up? Make those turtles credential false. To take best offer, we've got that. Get rid of some of that note. Search for workers. We hire one of the workers. Let's just put that bit of code right here. The worker gets this, right? So we create a link, we set a wage, we initialize it to false, and then we're going to ask the workers to take the best offer, where they look at all the offers being made to them currently and they accept the highest one. So if we keep going, we keep adding these links, and some of these links end up getting deleted. Let's make this forever and just let it run for a little bit and see what happens. Let's go ask employers to set size to the count of my links. So we've got a few sellers who are hiring a lot of people. There we go. We got two really big employers. They've got links to all of these different Turtles because they are offering presumably really high wages. So employer 16, they're offering a really high base wage. So because no one has a credential yet, everyone's just taking that job. All right. So evolve, I'm going to throw that down towards the bottom. And produce, here's where we've actually got to get things going on. So produce, this is an observer level procedure. So we want to think about the links. So we're going to ask links. Do we ask the links or do we ask the workers? Let's go ask workers with count my links. I'm just going to make that my links. So there's directed and undirected links. I don't think we should have a problem just calling these undirected links. So when we make a link to, right, so in hire, we create a link to seller. Let's see, is there a way to make another one? Create link with. Let's call that link with. So right now, we'll do something else. There we go. So right now, if you look closely, these links are arrows. So if we inspect this, we can see this little arrow. The version I'm just making now by switching to link with, now we don't have those arrows. Right? So a directed link would be something like one turtle tells some other person something, right? So I, for example, get my news indirectly from some people. So one of my friends will send me a link. He says, hey, here's a thing in the news. The direction of information is from him to me. That is a directed link. In this case, we don't really need to worry about the direction of the link because we've got buyers and sellers already noted as buyers and sellers. One works for the other hires the other. Direction of the links doesn't matter here. So links with should mean at least a little bit less on the screen. All right, ask workers with links. We want workers with some sort of a job. We're going to say if high ability we will ask. So let's see, produce should happen after we've taken the best offer. So this is, each worker should have only one link. Spec Turtle 75, Turtle 75, you are a worker. That doesn't seem right. Let's turn this off of forever. Screw something up again. Making turtles. Some number of employers, some number of workers. What did I do? Switch tabs, some event. I don't know what was going on. Let's go back to produce. Should be getting a problem here. If my ability, then we do something. There we go. All right, so we're asking a worker with at least one link. Let's make this equals 1. Workers with a job. If high ability, then we're going to ask my links to set productivity to let's say 150. There we go. We'll say if else. So if high ability, ask my links to set productivity to 150. Otherwise, ask my links to set productivity to 50. And then, let's see, utility, I'm just going to say utility is going to be how much money they get paid, period. So they're always looking for the high wage. We won't worry about low effort. We'll just say workers work to the best of their ability, and sometimes their ability is low, sometimes it's high. So we will do that, if else, yada yada yada. We are still looking at the if else. That closes off the if else. We're still looking at the workers with a job, so we will set utility to their current utility plus the wage of, hey Muffin, plus the wage of my links. Hey. What's the wage of my links? No, I'm live streaming. I'm making a model, so this is kind of informal office hours right now.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. I'm going off camera now because my fiance is using it. So I'm disappearing visually, but I'm still there. Or maybe. Let's see how that updates. I feel like I'm freezing this. Alright, well, we'll see what happens. Is this going to do it? Alright, set utility to the utility, my existing utility plus, let's just call it max one of. This is a little bit sloppy. This is just, they should only have one link, but this just says they get paid based on their highest paying job. Actually, I guess we could say the sum of the wage of their links, but this should be fine. So let's see, with the links, how do we do that? The links have production, not productivity. Plus, get rid of those brackets. Alright, this is a little clunky. Let's see if there's a better way to get this. Am I still there? Alright, I think I'm still there. So when we look at max one of, reports an agent set, reports the agent in the agent set. See what with max does. Agent and a reporter reports a new agent set. Let's see, agent set. Could we just go one of? I'm going to do that. This is a little bit less clunky. We should only have one link, but this says take the wage of one of my links. If there's only one link, there's only one link to sample from. We might have some sort of a problem later, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. All right. So we've got that. And then we want to ask employers. They will set profit to be their current profit plus something else, and that something else is going to be the production of all of their links. So we can sum production, and I think this one's supposed to be in square brackets. Some production of my links. See if we get an error. Check. All right. So far, so good. Let's go ahead and create some monitors really quick. Make this a bar. And this, I will say, plot profit of employers. And actually, let's see, I'll keep that just on its own. No, that didn't work. Is this one supposed to be histogram? See what we're getting. So some are getting 0, some getting 1,500, 2,550. Oh, you know what? We haven't been paying for wages. So we get the production, and then we can subtract out the sum of the wage of my links. Let's see what we get. So some employers are losing money, some are making money. That's good. Let's ask employers with count my links less than 1. Let's see if we've got anyone without an employee. To set color to green. Okay, so we do have some employees or some employers who haven't found a worker. Their profit is 0 because they're offering a base wage of 3, right? So they're just not competing well. That's fine. All right, so what we've got at this point, we've got the ability to produce, we've got the workers updating their utility. And utility here we're just saying is how much money are they getting. It's a really simplified version. We're not thinking about working conditions. We're not thinking about any of the other interesting things we could put in. We're just keeping it simple. All right, so let's see about workers. Let's ask workers without a job to set their size to 2. So we do have a couple workers who haven't found a job, but that's only 6 ticks in. So right now we're making it really easy for workers to get a job and to keep it, but we don't have employers going out of business yet. So maybe we'll throw that in. We will produce and then we will evolve. And maybe, let's see, let's say if, let's do this like every 10 loops, something like that. Floor what I want. Here we go, mod. Number 1, so 2 mod 5, so we could say show if ticks mod 10 equals 0, then evolve. So this is just saying we take the number of ticks, right? So right now it's 6, and we say ticks is 6, so ticks mod 10, we got 6 left over. But if we did 10 mod 10, we'd get 0 left over. 11 mod 10, we don't get 0. 19 mod 10, we don't get 0. 20 mod 10, we're going to get 0. So whenever we go every 10th tick, we will run the evolution procedure and start killing off the least successful and duplicating the most successful. We still need to put in a credential, and we still need some sort of a lemons thing. All right, we run this a little bit. Let's see about some profits. All right, we got some making a lot of money. We got some losing a lot of money. Let's make this forever. And let's see what happens. Oh, one thing I'm seeing here is in our evolution thing, we want our new turtles to go to a different location. So let's set XY to random XCore. Actually, let's just say go forward 5. I think that's going to make a fun little visualization. We should see this guy over here kind of start to gradually move across the screen. Right, so we're getting rid of the least profitable, and we're kind of, it's still a little crude at this point, but basically what we've got, the older business model was displaced by the newer business model. How many employers have we got? Okay, we got a lot of employers, but they're all piled up on these 2 spots. Here's an idea. Let's see how big our world is. 16 by 16. Let's make this 100 by 100. We'll make the patch size 6. There we go. Profits over here. Still not super happy with that. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of just going to a random XY coordinate, I'm going to say, let's go to base wage, credential premium. And we will do the same when we evolve. And yeah. So as we run this, I'm going to turn off the updates, let it run a bunch. We're kind of finding the employers are clustering up here where they're offering a pretty high base wage. They might have gone over. And this is just the pressure of employees always take the highest wage. Let's see. Let's show the base wage of employers. And this base wage, 36, 30, 54, 2, they're kind of all over the place. All right. All right. I like this, although maybe I want that to be a little bit different, but I'm not going to worry about that yet. We still really need to put in the credential. So right now, what we've got is a pooling equilibrium where everyone has the same level of credential, which is their credential value is set to false. I'm going to do like a really hacky version of this. I'm going to say, ask workers with high ability. So I'm just going to kind of assume in a perfect signal right off the bat. Ask workers with a high ability to set credential to true. So, lazy credential process, right? So this is just kind of me assuming some way to perfectly reflect this information. So this is basically giving the employers the ability to identify who is high ability with perfect fidelity, which is kind of assuming a lot, but let's see if it works for us. So as we do this, we run, and we will gradually see our market evolve. So let's see, I think I said what the X coordinate is the base rate, and then the Y coordinate is the premium. All right. See our base wage. Let's check the mean base wage and the mean credential premium. It's only 5.9. Right. Let's check the standard deviation too. Let's see how variable this is. Standard deviation is pretty big for the credential premium compared to the actual premium they're offering. There should be pressure to push that premium up towards 100 because a high ability employee has a production level that's just 100 higher. So a firm that offers too much should eventually go out of business, but a firm that doesn't offer enough should miss out to some firm that is willing to pay that higher premium. Let's try it like this. I'm just going to make the evolution happen faster. If I change this, just going to make it go every 3 periods. Make it run fast. Credential premium is floating around 40. Actually, you know what? I should just have this as a monitor. Let's go mean credential premium of employers. New one. Mean base wage of employers. So they're paying not a whole lot as the base wage. This is interesting. I would have expected that pressure to offer 50. Because even the low ability workers are producing 50 for every period that they've got a job. All right. Well, at the very least, we've got an imperfect demonstration of a genetic algorithm. So let's see, in terms of, oh wow, class stuff. Next week is our last week of class. I've got to figure out the final exam. And I got to figure out a worksheet for this. I kind of was hoping that I would have something fall into place a little bit simpler. So stay tuned for that. I'll make an announcement in Blackboard one way or another. At this point, let's say there's a 50% chance we don't end up doing a worksheet for this, but a 50% chance maybe that some version of this problem shows up on the final exam. But we'll worry about that in the future. In the meantime, I got a guy coming to my house pretty soon to fix my washer. So opportunity cost is going to be knocking soon. Cool, so we'll end it there. Let me go ahead and upload the model to GitHub. I'm going to be lazy about it. Oh, damn, that wasn't what I wanted. Where did I put it? Here it is. All right. This was at least not as bad as when I hit the wrong button in Blackboard, because then I just kick myself out. I'm pretty sure I'm still streaming here. There we go. That's sent up. So we've got that model, Market for Lemons version 0.1. Very much incomplete at this point, but such is life. Cool. I will fiddle around with this, I'm sure, over the weekend. And then, yeah, class-wise, 2 classes left. So I got some planning to do for what we're going to do with next week. Like I've said, in class, the exam, we're basically anticipating open book. So it's going to be a question of problem solving, more so than remembering right answers. So don't worry too much about that stuff. Have I just had a frozen image of me this whole time? I think I might have. All right, well, let's close it there. I'm going to stop, and I will send you guys a message in the class in the near future. Yeah, such is life. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the future. Keep an eye on your inbox. I'm not going to give you anything without giving you some lead time on it. So if I give you something, a worksheet this weekend, it's not going to be due like Monday morning. But in any case, I will talk to you in the future. Adios.